Good afternoon, dear conference participants. As a representative of an electricity transmission system operator, so security and preparedness have always been in our DNA. So we have been ready for shorter outages and failures and problems ranging from days to weeks at the maximum. But since the Russian attack towards Ukraine, this has changed. There has become a new dimension for security. And we have understood that we need to be prepared for longer periods of time when we might have really big problems. So, how have we now ramped up our preparedness? First of all, of course, we have followed what has happened in Ukraine, so we have taken the lessons from there. We have seen that the attacks have been made towards the big power plants and also transformers. So the parts of the power system that are the slowest then to repair and to renew. Another issue has been that also there needs to be good capacity to... Okay.
Yeah, just a check.
Okay, so I will continue with this one. So another lesson has been that there need to be proper repair capacity. So it means that you need to have more stored equipment and parts of the electricity infrastructure to repair for the damages. And what we have especially thought when it comes to Finland and how we need to develop our electricity system is that we need to build more decentralized power generation. So as it was said previously also here, so a decentralized system is more resilient than a centralized one. But there has been also another dimension, not just the land, but also the sea. So when we, from Fingrid perspective, were following what started to happen in the Baltic Sea, so first Nord Stream, then Baltic Connector, so that is the gas pipeline between Finland and Estonia. So then we thought that now something is going on and we need to act. We need to prepare ourselves because something could happen also to our interconnectors. We have 4 of them, 2 between Finland and Estonia and 2 between Finland and Sweden. And we started to create relationships with the, I would say, most relevant authorities. So the Finnish Coast Guard, the National Border Guard, and also the intelligence authorities so that we would know whom to contact. And when last Christmas Day, something weird happened on our EstLink 2 cable, and after it was made clear that the failure was not on the land part, but it was somewhere between Finland and Estonia on the sea part of the cable, so we knew whom to contact. So the lesson here is that you need to prepare already when it's calm and when there are no problems, to be then prepared for the harsher times and to know the right people. So what we have been doing since then, we have continued building the relationships. We have worked to have enough the extra cable at our stock, and also doing other measures to make sure that if something happens, so we are then able to act fast, of course even monitor and try to prevent. And what has been, I would say, really the top layer here has been the cooperation Here in this case, the cooperation around the Baltic Sea, and of course also among the Nordic countries and the Nordic TSOs. And I can say that when we were previously working on markets and market integrations and market development, so now the new agenda starts with security.
Dear Elisabeth, dear conference members, my name is Eckemark. I'm heading the TSO in Sweden, Svenska Kraftnät. Total defense is very much highest priority for Swedish government and parliament. The defense budget will be 2.8%, or the military part next year, so it's quite an increase, but also on the civil side we see substantial spending. A factor 5 just compared to 3-4 years ago, up to 13 billion SEK next year, and it will raise to 20 billion in 3 years' time. And we have been set targets on our contingency. We should handle all public authorities and also the private sector to be able to handle a war in Europe for 3 months with severely disturbed supply lines. And 2 weeks without any supply, only own resources. And Svenska Kraftnät, we are also substantially increasing our investments and efforts in robustness, in repair preparedness when it comes to cybersecurity, training, continuous planning, and so on. So very similar situation as for the other Nordic countries. But I will talk about some specialities that for the role that we have in the Swedish system. We are not only the TSO, but we are also the electricity contingency planning agency. And what does that mean? We are to care for the whole electricity sector and its preparedness and contingency planning. So now we have made sure that all 200 actors have their contingency and preparedness plans, and we also audit them, and we have a special set of funding from the government to help to support the delta in investments. So for instance, we are now financing purchasing of spare power line towers for the DSOs, and we place them out in the country for them. We have also invested in island operations in Stockholm, and in Malmö was the latest case, where we helped to restart the combined cycle plant in Malmö. It's a 440 megawatt big plant to secure island operation in that region. The government has also introduced the Civil Duty Act in Sweden. That means that we have now a conscript system also on the civil side, starting with the rescue workers, fire brigade and so on, and the electricity supply. So we are identifying now candidates for this, and we enroll them, test them, assess them, and then we sign them in. And that's by law, so it's mandatory if you're selected. And the first training will start tomorrow, actually, for the first set of cable repairmen from Gotland, the island of Gotland. And we have 18 trainings planned for next year. And tomorrow, our Minister of Civil Defense, Carl-Oskar Bolin, will inaugurate the first training. And the target is to have 1,000 repair persons enrolled by 2028. And then we have also a special role in our instruction, which is the top document that controls our role. That says that in case of war or when the government decides, we should lead, plan and coordinate all resources in the electricity systems. So in case the government decides, then we take over. And that could be in a case where severe damages in the system or when we don't have an electricity market. So we have to have the capabilities to take over and lead and coordinate all resources. And that requires some work, so we have a lot of development work in order to take on that role in an efficient manner. So I would like to conclude by also, let's say, back to your story about Nordic cooperation. I think it's really important. I'm really pleased also with the way we cooperate in the Nordics. Especially, we should continue to develop that, to help each other and learn from each other. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for the invitation to speak at this event. And my name is Willerslev. I'm from Energinet. I'm managing director in the system operator part, Systemansvaret. But let me start stressing that I place a great value on our Nordic cooperation. It's crucial for ensuring a stable and robust power grid in the region we are in, and it offers a lot of resilience when we do that. We are very interconnected. Ultimately, this is also about national security, because we can assume that those who wish us harm will target our energy supply as one of the first things in event of a crisis. In Denmark, we have just been in this preparedness level orange. We have for a long time been in yellow, but it was escalated to orange lately, a month ago or so. It was on that level for 9 days. That was due to the increased level of threat that we saw. That included drone activity across our airports, our military installations, and our critical infrastructure. We have only been at this orange level when we saw the Nord Stream explosions back in 2022. Therefore, I would like to emphasize that cross-border cooperation is very high on our Danish agenda, and it's something that I care deeply about. Let me bring out a few examples from where we help each other across the Nordic region when it's needed or relevant to draw on knowledge, competencies, and capacity from our neighboring countries. If you're not aware, then we quite often see a southbound flow on our interconnectors between Denmark and Sweden. But for approximately a quarter of the time, it is actually heading north. We quite often also see, from a Danish perspective, that we are exporting to Norway and importing from Sweden or vice versa, stressing the point that having these flows, then we are utilizing the grid system in the Nordic region as best as possible. Last Wednesday, we also saw an event in Norway creating an interruption of the production side, and we saw that on the Swedish interconnector, the interconnector between Denmark and Sweden, there was an automatic response to stabilize the level of frequency. The cables between us, they give us frequency stability and emergency assistance. They offer grid protection and flexibility, strengthening the balancing. And the alternative to having these cables is being less robust, which we do not want. Let me just stress one thing. These cables is, from a Danish perspective, not about money. It is about the security and supply, and for the reasons I mentioned. And it is this value and security that we believe that we should have in focus. The energy system is changing. This places new demands on how we operate, protect, and develop our infrastructure. Energinet is working purposefully to handle the complexity, strengthen the robustness, and ensure the markets and systems are keeping up. It's not simple, but it's necessary. And we greatly appreciate the good cooperation across the Nordic countries. We're stronger when we stand together. Thank you.
Statnett has a long history of working with security and preparedness. We've been subject to a range of laws and requirements, starting with acts on defense-related security of power supply from 1948. Today, we are governed by the regulation, security and emergency preparedness in the power supply system and the National Security Act. Since 2011, we've had a dedicated professional environment for this as a part of our own organization. We have a strong foundation. However, war in Europe, rising hybrid threats, more demanding cybersecurity challenges, increasingly complex supply chains, more extreme weather events, and an aging power grid all contribute to a rising preparedness higher on the agenda. That's why security and resilience was put out as one of 3 main priorities in our strategy. To strengthen operation and development resilience, we work holistically along 3 pillars: design for security, safeguarding and monitoring, putting preparedness into action. Earlier this year, the Norwegian Total Defence White Paper was published. The paper emphasized the need for mutual support and cooperation between military and civil society in prevention, preparedness planning, and operations. Preparedness is collaboration. That's why we work systematically with many outside Statnett. We train jointly with police and defense, and cooperate with regional grid owners and collaborate across borders, both in the Nordics and through NSOE. As TSO, we're all responsible for critical infrastructure. Our mission is closely linked to the total defense, and Nordic cooperation is crucial to energy supply, security, and preparedness. Security and preparedness must be a joint effort before, during, and after an incident. We are prepared and motivated to strengthen our role in Norway's total defense and to increase cooperation with the Nordics.
This is the starting point. However, I need to ask you first, Per, how was your last weeks?
Is it on? It's been intense since last Saturday. So,
yes. And why?
So, yeah, we had this IT incident where data was stolen from us, from one of our external file transfer servers, and there is a hacker group involved. And we have worked intensively to find the weakness, to stop it, to make sure that that this group has not entered into our internal critical systems, which they haven't, and then to identify and categorize all data that are affected, and to also to, let's say, collaborate with all our partners that have been potentially affected, but also with other authorities in Sweden, like the Swedish police and our authority for preparedness and so on, MSB. So it's been a lot of work.
Hard work, but were you prepared? I mean, were you fully prepared? This is an incident that can happen.
It can happen. No system is 100% secure, but I think we are prepared since we have very good functions for secure operations, for monitoring, for let's say, mobilizing resources to handle the. And I think we have got also praise from our government on how we handle it.
Yeah.
We should have to make sure it doesn't happen again, of course.
We're going to go back to the duty that you actually have in the Swedish society. And I will move to Finland. A nuclear power bordering with Russia. How did 2022 actually change your security thinking?
It changed, I would say, upside down, so dramatically. So since, or until that moment, so as I explained, so we had been just working on continuity and normal preparedness, not preparing for a wartime. And that changed totally. And we realized that what we had been doing, it was good, but it would not be what is needed now in the new era. And it doesn't seem to change soon. So this is something that is continuing.
Are the rest of us a little bit naive still?
But I think everybody was kind of optimistic. And as I was telling, so in Europe, so we were building the European electricity market, so integrating, developing market rules, implementing. So it was a kind of positive development. Of course, at times we were a bit worried about, for example, adequacy, security of supply. But, you know, those were things that one could work with, you know, build more generation capacity and the like, but totally different from what we are now facing.
We heard the minister today. He was kind of arguing or asking the question whether the Danes are on are the Danes on another map than the rest of the Nordics, or is it Norway that is totally on the side of the rest of Europe?
I would love to have a dialogue with the minister about that. I saw he left, unfortunately. I would have loved to explore that point of view that he expressed from stage. We don't see ourselves like that. We see that we have a lot of collaboration with many countries around us. If we measure on capacity, in terms of megawatt, then we probably have a stronger bond with Europe than with the Nordic. But if we measure on the depth of the collaboration, then we're looking more north. And we are, to some degree, maybe trying to bridge the two worlds, if I can say so.
But I mean, there is this issue around the cable. We're not going to dive into that too much, but it's there because Norway will have to consider fulfilling or to build the new cable and also have the old one there. Can you be very honest with us on this question? Denmark is closest to EU and NATO integration. Norway stands outside of the EU. How does that affect the Nordic cooperation that we talk about here on hybrid threats?
On hybrid?
On hybrid threats.
On hybrid threats, I think actually to a large extent, then we are spending more time on diving into exploring learnings across the Nordic countries than we do southbound. Personally, I'll be in this beautiful city for 3 days now to have dialogues with our Nordic colleagues. So my own investment in time and dialogues is significantly more north and also with Norway. But we are collaborating across, and we are bound by a legal platform to do so.
Per.
Yeah, I think my impression is that we have a very high level of cooperation in the Nordics. We actually met with the NSOE here last week, and they from the board, and they praised the Nordics were the role model of collaboration compared to all other countries. So I think we have developed it a long way, and we also are connected. We have the same synchronous areas. We have to cooperate, but we do it to a full extent, I would say.
Asta.
Yes, and I'd like to continue what Per just told us. Not disagree, surely not, because for a couple of years so we have had a Nordic security group. So it started before the worst happened, and the work has now intensified. And I see that we are more advanced compared with, for example, NSOE and other European members in the organization when it comes to security issues. So we are so closely integrated. I was telling about our subsea cables, and everything started from the Nordic markets.
And it started from the Nordic markets, and then it turned European in a way, and now it seems as if the Nordics need to kind of come together again. And Elisabeth, I heard Kim here saying that the cables or the security system is based in the electricity, in the grid. And so it's not only, the cables are not there only because they're going to secure the Danes, but it's also security. Do you agree upon that?
it is a clear answer. Yes, I agree. And as I said earlier, originally we brought these cables or the interconnectors, either they go under the water or over land. That's a part of our system, mainly originally because of the dry years. That will happen, I will tell you. I mean, you won't believe that when you see the rain outside. But it's mainly for a dry year, but it's also to strengthen the power system in the Nordics. That's why we collaborate.
What is, I mean, if we're going to go into each of your roles in the countries, Statnett's role in Norway's total defense, should it be clarified further?
We look upon ourselves as a part of the total defense today. But we also, I mean, we have this dual role. We are the system operator, and we are the owner of the transmission grid. And these are two distinct roles, but in the end, it's just a question of keeping the lights on. And you need to keep a light on even during a war. So when you talk about total defense, I think we want to be, we believe we have a strong role in the operations, because total defense is much more than rules and regulations. It's about operating even and keeping the lights on even during a war. So we would like to, we don't want to change the total defense, but we would like to be a closer integrated in the total defense, mainly because we need to keep the lights on.
Do you get a little bit envious when you hear what happens in Sweden?
Well, we know this will happen. I mean, I say, we don't say we know this can happen. It will happen. And we are preparing for it, and we are learning a lot from Sweden and from other countries which have the same incidents.
But I was also thinking about the civil preparedness I mean, what is starting now to happen this week, and to put civilians into that preparedness and to prepare electricians, for instance, to go working on the grid.
I think you need to understand the difference. We've always had, and also the DSOs have their own employees, which we've been training through our own projects. And then when something happened, we use them in the repair, and they are part of the preparedness of Norway. Yeah. And in many ways, what they are doing as Svenska Kraftnät is training personnel, which they don't have today. We have them all the time. But I believe in the future we would look into how many people do we need to train? And we need to look into what happens if anything, if a war or a warlike situation occurs in Norway.
Kim, you had your hand up here.
I think we are catching some momentum here. I'm not sure that we would consider us as a part of the defense in Denmark and Energinet, but we are certainly an enabler for many things. The society depends on electricity, and we are providing the grid for that. So I think we would have an important role to play if we were to have a crisis or an escalation of the situation to secure infrastructure, communication, heating, and so on and so forth.
What does it actually be? I mean, being a Nordic country most tightly linked to mainland Europe, how does this shape Danish energy security policy post-Ukraine?
I think there has been a development since the situation happened in Ukraine, and then you can discuss what situation to use as a baseline for that. But I think that even over the last year or so, that there has been an acceleration of that focus, and it's. I think the situation we're in now, or the level of preparedness, that will not be the situation in a couple of years from now. Many initiatives are in the pipeline, and we will execute those with high passion.
There are some differences here, and for instance, Asta, Fingrid is not fully state-owned like some TSOs. Does ownership structure affect preparedness and cost exposure?
Yes, so we are a limited company, and the state owns a bit more than 50% of us. But in Finland, we have this strong private-public partnership. And for example, Fingrid is now chairing the so-called electricity pool that is coordinating the activities in this sector. And what we have been also doing is that we have been ramping up our preparedness plan. So there are various parts of that. But building our capability and improving our resilience. But I think that the common issue or question to all the Nordic countries is that it's easy with the TSOs, maybe it's even with the DSOs. But what about then the competitive generation sector? Yeah. Because that is also critical. So if we have the power lines, but there is nothing to be transmitted. Yes. And this is something we have been now thinking, because it's a sector that is under competition. So how does it get the resources that are needed? Per?
Yeah, I think that we have to thank, in Sweden, we have to thank the lawmakers from the 90s, because the role we have as an emergency contingency or electricity contingency planning authority, that comes from the Cold War days. And it has been on a lower level for many years during the eternal peace. But now it's really ramped up. And the funding we get, this is not from the tariffs, this is from the state budget. It has increased by a factor 3 over the last years. Yeah. So now we have money, we can help also production and the DSOs to top up investments, to increase the contingency level or preparedness level for all actors in the system. So that, I think, is a very good way that we can handle it. That's the authority part of us, and we have the TSO part.
Yeah, and this is different also. It differs, for instance, from the Norwegian situation as well, doesn't it?
It's very different from the Norwegian system.
Yeah, and how?
We don't have the role to top up any DSOs. I mean, I wish we could, but that's not our role. They are on a different financial regulations, the DSOs, than we are in the TSO.
How much information do you share? I mean, has that also been ramped up? Do you share more information now than you did before 2022?
Yes, especially in this area, yes.
I think to share information, yes, but mainly also because we need it. We need to share the information. I don't think anything prevented us from sharing it before, but we need to stay prepared and secured. We need to share information.
All of you.
Yeah, and what is even, I would say, of course, sharing best practices, but training together. So that has been, I would say, a new element.
Kim?
Yeah, and I think we have a strong culture of working together, and we work together on any relevant topic. We have been working together on grid development, on a lot of IT. We have been doing significant IT investments in the market systems as we have now. And now we see a new phase of that, and that would be on security and preparedness. So I think we collaborate on relevant topics, and we certainly have a new one now.
Yes, it's quite formalized, actually, with the Nordic CEO group at the top, and then several subgroups for markets, for operations, for grid planning, and so on. And then we have added preparedness and security as well. So it's a very good system for collaboration and exchanging information and practices.
Just last question. It's costly what you're doing. It's very costly. And how do you manage affordability via readiness? Is there any one of you wanting to answer to that? Is it not the Norwegian oil money coming into this, or?
Yeah, I can share my experience. So when I raised this topic at the meeting with the regulators, so they were kind of appalled that I raised the issue of costs and money. But the fact is that we are a regulated company. There is an economic regulatory model that runs for 8 years in a row, and the current one doesn't take into account the need to increase preparedness costs. They are currently, for example, operational costs under efficiency target. And furthermore, we have a national cap for raising transmission tariffs, so we are kind of squeezed, and something needs to be done.
Something needs to be done, and that was the last word. Thank you so much to all of you.